The alien fleet thought they had an easy target, Earth, but humans replied with a signal so powerful it shocked the invaders. The aliens froze, their invasion plans shattered. Humanity survived, clever and fearless. Don't miss more thrilling first contact stories. Subscribe now and join the adventure. The Deep Space Listening Station in Australia was having an ordinary night. The sky was clear, the machines were humming softly, and the scientists on duty were relaxed. They were used to long, quiet hours with nothing unusual happening. But everything changed when one of the computers showed a strange spike in the signal graph. At first, the team thought it was just background noise. Maybe a satellite signal bouncing in the wrong direction, or a small glitch in the equipment. But then the signal repeated, not once, but twice in the exact same way. The scientists stopped talking, their eyes fixing on the screen as the pattern became clearer. It wasn't random noise. It was too perfect, too precise, too deliberate. The signal contained a repeating sequence of prime numbers, something nature does not usually create by accident. It pulsed in a rhythm that seemed almost like a message, slow at first, then rising in pitch. The team leaned closer, their excitement growing as the data scrolled across the monitors. Nobody in the room had seen anything like it before. They checked all the usual sources, nearby satellites, military transmitters, space probes, but none matched this pattern. The realization hit them slowly but powerfully. Someone or something out there was trying to talk to Earth. Panic and excitement blended in the room as more scientists were called in. The signal grew sharper, and the machines began tracking its origin. It wasn't coming from inside the solar system. It wasn't coming from a planet or a distant star humans had studied before. It was coming from deep space, far beyond anything humanity had explored. The distance alone made the signal impossible for any human technology to create. The team knew this was something extraordinary, something historic. They began recording every tiny detail, every pulse, every wavelength change, as if afraid the signal might vanish at any moment. Outside the station, the night remained calm, but inside, every scientist felt the weight of what was happening. One researcher whispered that this could be the first real proof that humans were not alone. Another scientist, usually calm and logical, began shaking slightly from the adrenaline rushing through her body. They had trained for years to search for something like this, but none of them ever truly expected to find it. The moment felt unreal, like a dream they might wake up from at any second. As the minutes passed, the team started decoding the deeper layers of the signal. Hidden inside the pulses was a kind of mathematical harmony, a repeating pattern that folded back into itself. It looked like a greeting, simple but unmistakable. It was as if the sender wanted to show intelligence without causing fear. The scientists tried sending a quick test reply, but the senior officer immediately stopped them. No one wanted to make a mistake. They needed to understand the message fully before deciding how to respond. If this was truly an alien communication attempt, one wrong step could change everything. The team contacted global authorities, their voices trembling as they explained what they had found. Within minutes, secure lines lit up as governments around the world were alerted. The Australian station was ordered to stay locked down. No leaks, no public statements. Earth needed time to process and understand what was happening. The scientists continued studying the signal, zooming in on each waveform, trying to determine if it carried hidden information or if it was simply an opening call. Like someone knocking on a door from across the stars, hours passed, but the feeling in the room only grew more intense. Everyone knew this discovery would rewrite history books. For decades, humanity had wondered whether life existed beyond Earth. And now, for the first time, there was strong evidence that another intelligence was reaching out. Some scientists felt fear tightening in their chest. What if the sender was powerful or hostile? Others felt hope and awe, dreaming of peaceful communication or new knowledge from worlds far away. Still, amidst all the excitement, there was one detail nobody noticed yet. The signal was growing clearer, as if the source was slowly turning its attention fully toward Earth. The pulses sharpened, the harmony intensified, and the final burst of the transmission felt almost like an invitation. The Australian team stared at their monitors, realizing they were witnessing the beginning of something enormous. Something that would change not just their lives, but the future of all humanity. And as the signal ended with one last deliberate pulse, every scientist in the room understood one thing. The universe had spoken, and Earth had no choice but to answer. Global shock spread faster than the signal itself. When the discovery reached world leaders, every major government called an emergency meeting at almost the same moment. Presidents, prime ministers, military chiefs, and scientific advisors were pulled from sleep, travel, or live events and rushed into secure rooms. The atmosphere everywhere was the same, tense, heavy, and filled with silent questions that no one knew how to answer. The world had always debated the idea of alien life, but now it wasn't a theory anymore. It was real, and it was contacting Earth. In intelligence centers across the planet, giant screens lit up, showing the strange repeating pulses from deep space. Analysts replayed the audio again and again, listening to the sharp, rhythmic tones that had no human origin. Some people compared it to a heartbeat, others to a coded knock from somewhere far away. Military officers stood in lines, arms folded, trying to look calm while their minds raced with possibilities. If someone was sending a message, it meant they had technology far beyond anything humans possessed. And if they could send a message from so far away, what else could they do? News of the signal was kept secret from the public, at least for the moment. Governments needed time to understand the situation before risking global panic. Behind closed doors, heated arguments broke out. Some leaders pushed for immediate communication, believing the best chance for safety was quick diplomacy. Others warned that replying too soon could reveal Earth's location, technology, and weaknesses. For every hopeful voice, there was another filled with fear, worried that a friendly message could be the first step of a threat. Meanwhile, scientists from every major space agency were connected in a shared encrypted network. They analyzed the structure of the signal, its rhythm, and the strange mathematical patterns hidden inside. Some argued that a peaceful species would send a message in simple math to show intelligence without aggression. Others pointed out that conquerors could do the same thing, pretending to be harmless until it was too late. No one could agree on what the aliens wanted, but everyone agreed the message was not random. It had purpose, it had design, and it was directed at Earth specifically. In military facilities, commanders examined worst-case scenarios. They studied the past behavior of human civilizations when advanced explorers met isolated tribes on Earth, and the comparisons were not comforting. History showed that the more powerful side usually took control, not peacefully, but by force. Some officers feared this might be humanity's future. They ordered satellites to be repositioned, defense networks to be activated, and early warning systems to stay on constant alert. Even though no alien ship had been detected, the possibility alone was enough to trigger quiet preparation around the globe. Around the world, small groups of selected scientists tried to build a response strategy. They asked questions that humanity had never needed to answer before. Should Earth reveal how much technology it has, or pretend to be less advanced? Should the reply be friendly, cautious, or neutral? Should Earth ask questions back, or simply acknowledge the message? Every option felt risky, like stepping into a dark room without knowing what was inside. But silence felt just as dangerous. What if the aliens took no response as a sign of hostility or weakness? The pressure increased when more detailed scans showed the signal was shifting slightly in tone. It was as if the sender was adjusting it, waiting for Earth to react. That small change created new waves of stress. Some officials argued that if Earth didn't respond soon, the aliens might think humanity was ignoring them. Others worried that answering now without full understanding could be a mistake that changed the future in ways no one could predict. The world was trapped in a moment where every decision mattered more than anything before, even though ordinary people had no idea what was happening. Small hints leaked out. A few scientists made cryptic posts online before being silenced, and unusual government activity sparked rumors. But the truth was too enormous to explain quickly, and too frightening to announce without preparation. So the world continued as usual, even as the most powerful people on Earth worked through the night trying to decide humanity's next step. By the end of the night, the global emergency teams had gathered enough evidence to confirm one fact. The message was real and intentional. It came from a distant point in space, too far for any human craft to reach within centuries. That meant whoever sent it had technology humanity could only dream of. The realization settled heavily over every leader and scientist. Earth was not dealing with equals, it was dealing with someone far ahead. And as governments argued, debated, and calculated their next move, one thought echoed in every room. Humanity had been noticed, and there was no turning back now. Far away from Earth, in a part of the galaxy humans had never seen, a powerful alien empire known as the Vorel Dominion watched their outgoing signal with cold confidence. They were not explorers, and they were not peaceful scientists searching for friends in the universe. They were conquerors, trained for generations to expand their control over weaker civilizations. For them, sending a message was never an offer of friendship. It was the first step toward domination. A quiet test to see how advanced the target species was before the invasion began. The Vorel commanders stood inside their giant flagship, a dark metal vessel the size of a small city. Screens glowed with swirling lights as the signal they had sent toward Earth traveled through space. They expected the usual outcome. They had done this many times before with other planets. First, send a simple mathematical greeting, wait for a reply, and then launch a strike when the target seemed confused or unprepared. Most civilizations never responded at all. Their silence was seen as weakness, making them easy to conquer. A few replied with basic signals, which only confirmed how primitive they were. The Vorel believed Earth would be no different, just another small world waiting to be taken. Inside their military council chamber, the alien leaders discussed Earth as if it were a small insect. They had collected basic scans from distant probes, showing blue oceans, green continents, and a population unaware of what was coming. They laughed at the idea that humans might resist. To them, Earth looked like a peaceful world with simple technology. They did not expect humans to understand the message quickly, and they certainly did not expect them to respond with strength. Their entire strategy relied on the assumption that Earth was weak, quiet, and helpless. Among the Vorel, sending communication signals was a routine job. The operators worked calmly, tapping glowing panels and adjusting long-range transmitters. Their faces showed no emotion as they monitored the outgoing pulses. This was normal for them. The Dominion had conquered dozens of planets this way. Sometimes they destroyed entire civilizations. Sometimes they forced them into slavery. But the pattern was always the same. First contact, then fear, then control. They believed Earth would follow the same path. Step by step, they predicted exactly how humans would behave, because every species before had behaved the same. One young Vorel officer, however, was curious about Earth. He had studied human transmissions captured from space, old radio broadcasts, music, speeches, and faint television waves that had leaked into the stars. He found humans strange, unpredictable, emotional creatures who fought among themselves but also created art, music, and stories. He tried to warn the commanders that Earth might not react the way they expected, but his concerns were dismissed immediately. To the Dominion, no primitive species had ever surprised them. They trusted their long history of victories more than the warnings of a junior officer. As the signal approached Earth, the Dominion's warships moved quietly through space, positioning themselves at a safe distance. Their invasion fleet was massive, made of dark, armored vessels with glowing red engines. Each ship carried weapons that could tear apart mountains, erase cities, or destroy orbital defenses in minutes. They had used the same fleet to crush 3 different civilizations in recent centuries. To them, Earth was simply the next name on a growing list. They believed humans would panic when they realized the message was from a powerful alien force. The idea that humans might respond confidently never crossed their minds. The Vorel Command Council reviewed their battle plans again and again. Their plans assumed Earth would either remain silent or respond with weak signals. If humans remained silent, the Dominion would declare them technologically fragile and launch a direct attack. If humans replied with basic math or simple greetings, the Dominion would send a second message pretending to be peaceful, drawing humans into a false sense of safety before striking. Every possible action humans might take had a matching Vorel strategy, or so the commanders believed. But behind their confidence was something none of them noticed. Their empire was built on fear, not understanding. They assumed all species acted the same, and they believed their strength made them unstoppable. They never imagined that humanity might do something unexpected, something that would break their carefully planned strategy. They did not realize their outgoing message was about to trigger a reaction from Earth that would shake their entire fleet and challenge everything they thought they knew about humans. As their ships drifted in silence, waiting for Earth to answer, the Dominion believed they held complete control of the situation. They had no idea that their first mistake had already been made. They had underestimated the one species in the galaxy capable of surprising them. The species that would soon make them panic, retreat, and question their own power. The Varel Dominion waited confidently, unaware that the humans they saw as weak were about to terrify them in a way no other civilization ever had. The moment Earth finally sent its reply, nobody on the planet understood how powerful the response truly was. Scientists at the Deep Space Network had spent hours examining the alien signal, trying to decode the repeating prime numbers and the strange harmonic rhythms hidden inside. After long debates, they decided to send back a simple, clear message containing basic mathematics and a greeting. The purpose was peaceful, cautious, and polite. But the tools they used to send it were anything but gentle. Earth's communication array was built for deep space missions, powering signals strong enough to reach spacecraft billions of kilometers away. When humans transmitted their reply, the full strength of that system was released into the void. The reply blasted out of Earth like a lightning strike, stretching across space. The antennas of the Deep Space Network vibrated under the intensity. Massive dishes pointed into the night sky sent out a beam so strong that it passed through dust clouds, radiation belts, and cosmic interference as if nothing existed. Engineers monitoring the equipment were amazed at how clean and powerful the signal looked on their screens. They felt proud of the technology they had created, never imagining that this same power would soon terrify an alien empire millions of kilometers away. As the message traveled outward, it grew stronger, not weaker. The focused beam carried pure mathematical tones that echoed cleanly across the emptiness of space. The scientists had no idea that alien receivers were far more sensitive than human ones, built to detect even the faintest whisper from distant galaxies. So when the human reply finally reached the Varel Dominion's fleet, the effect was immediate and shocking. The first monitoring station hit by the signal experienced a violent overload. Panels sparked, lights flickered, and alarms screamed through the alien control rooms. The operators jumped back from their consoles, their eyes wide in disbelief. To the Varel technicians, the human reply did not feel like a simple message. It felt like a roar, a wall of energy so strong that it shook their instruments to the core. Their receivers were designed to measure gentle signals from faraway civilizations, never something sent with the raw power of Earth's deep space transmitters. The alien analysts scrambled to adjust the controls, desperately trying to reduce the intensity before their systems melted under the pressure. Some shouted that the signal was an attack, others insisted it was a warning. The confusion spread quickly among the crew, turning into anxiety that none of them had expected to feel from such a simple message. Inside the Dominion flagship, the military council was immediately alerted. Officers rushed into the communication hall where the sound of the human message still echoed through the speakers. The tones were clear, strong, and perfectly structured, not the weak reply they had expected from a primitive world. The force of the transmission left many aliens stunned. If humans could send a message with such power, what else were they capable of? Suddenly, the simple task of conquering Earth did not look so easy. Their first assumption, that Earth was weak, was now being challenged by the very first signal humans had sent. Some commanders tried to calm the others, saying that maybe the power of the signal was accidental. But the younger officers were not convinced. They replayed the message again and again, measuring its energy output. Every measurement pointed to the same conclusion. Earth's reply was stronger than any first contact response the Dominion had ever recorded. That meant humanity either had extremely advanced communication technology, or they had weapons capable of generating massive energy. Neither possibility was comforting. The alien council gathered in a tight circle, speaking in urgent whispers. Their earlier confidence was gone, replaced by doubt and fear. No species they had encountered before had replied with this level of force. Even advanced races they fought in the past did not send such powerful signals at the beginning of communication. The commanders began to wonder if Earth had been hiding its true abilities, pretending to be a simple world while secretly building incredible technology. The idea terrified them. If humans had such strong communication tools, they might also have sensors, shields, or weapons that the Dominion could not see yet. While Earth celebrated successfully making contact, the Vorel fleet interpreted the reply as a threat. They believed the humans were sending a message that said, "We see you. We are ready. Do not underestimate us." The panic grew as the signal continued to echo through their systems. The commanders ordered their warships to hold position and halt their advance toward Earth. They needed time to understand what they were facing. The humans had surprised them. And the Dominion was not used to surprises. By the time the signal faded, the Vorel Dominion's confidence had cracked. Their careful invasion plans now seemed dangerous and uncertain. Earth had responded with a strength they could not have predicted. And although humans had only wanted to say hello, their message had carried something far more powerful. It carried fear into the heart of a galactic empire that believed itself untouchable. In that moment, without realizing it, humanity had changed the balance of power in the galaxy with a single reply. The moment the powerful human reply hit the Vorel fleet, panic spread like wildfire through every ship. Alien officers who had been calm and confident only minutes before were suddenly scrambling across their control rooms, trying to understand what had just slammed into their receivers. The message was not only loud, it felt intentional, strong, and almost aggressive. The vibrations ran through their equipment, shaking panels loose and triggering emergency lights that flashed bright red across the command decks. For a species that believed it had mastered the art of first contact, this was the first time their own strategy had turned against them, and it terrified them. On the main flagship, the communication center was in chaos. Operators shouted over each other, reporting massive energy spikes across every sensor. Some believed the humans had sent a warning strike, a kind of invisible energy weapon disguised as a message. Others thought the humans had discovered the fleet's position and were testing the strength of alien shields. The most frightening theory came from a senior analyst who whispered that Earth might have technology far more advanced than what the Dominion originally believed. His voice shook as he explained that even some high-level alien civilizations could not produce signals that strong at such distance. If humans could, it meant Earth was hiding a level of power the Dominion had never prepared for. The panic rose even higher when the first damage reports came in. A few of the smaller communication ships had overloaded circuits, screens had exploded in showers of sparks, and power grids had been temporarily knocked out by the unexpected surge. This was not normal. The Dominion had contacted civilizations across the galaxy, and none had ever responded with enough strength to damage Vorel systems. The idea that a supposedly primitive planet could do this was beyond anything they had imagined. Officers exchanged fearful looks, knowing that if this was only the reply, then humans might have far worse capabilities hidden beneath the surface. Inside the War Council chamber, the high commanders argued loudly. Some demanded immediate retreat, shouting that the humans were clearly more dangerous than expected. Others refused to believe that a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy could possibly threaten the Dominion. They insisted that the signal must have been a rare, natural burst of energy, or some kind of accident. But deep inside their minds, even they felt the tremor of fear. They could not ignore the fact that the signal had nearly crippled part of their fleet. If humans had done this intentionally, what else could they unleash? Young officers watched their leaders fight with each other, their hearts pounding. Many of them had studied Earth's radio broadcasts, hearing old songs, speeches, and chaotic transmissions that floated across space. They had laughed at humanity's loudness, emotion, and unpredictability. But now those qualities seemed frightening. What if humans were not primitive, but unpredictable warriors, capable of using every piece of technology with surprising force? What if humans were not confused by the alien message, but testing the Dominion in return? As the fear spread, rumors began racing through the ships. Some crew members claimed they saw energy spikes that resembled weapon signatures. Others whispered that humans might have hidden fleets or advanced satellites capable of reading the Dominion's movements. The panic grew stronger with every rumor, and discipline began to crack. Even experienced officers could not hide their trembling hands or the tight fear in their voices. The Dominion had built its reputation on being unstoppable, but at this moment, they were terrified of an enemy they did not understand. Inside one of the observation decks, a group of engineers replayed the message again and again, trying to find any sign that it was accidental. But every test showed the same conclusion. The power was real, the clarity was real, and the precision of the mathematical tones proved intelligence. It was not a random burst. It was a reply, a confident one. The engineers looked at each other with pale, nervous faces. If this was how humans greeted strangers, then their technology might be far beyond what the Dominion had prepared for. Their invasion plan suddenly felt like walking into the territory of a giant while pretending the giant was asleep. One commander finally voiced the fear everyone was thinking. He said that Earth might have detected their fleet, and the reply was a warning shot. He warned that if humans could track the fleet, they might also be preparing defenses that the Dominion could not see. Hearing this, silence fell across the room. The thought of being watched by an unseen enemy froze everyone in place. The Dominion had always been the hunters, never the hunted, but now they felt exposed, vulnerable, and at the mercy of a species they had underestimated. Across the fleet, the panic grew until it felt like a living thing, spreading from ship to ship. The alien empire that had conquered dozens of worlds was now acting like a cornered animal. Their arrogance had been shattered by one powerful human reply, a message that humans themselves believed was peaceful and simple. But the Vorel did not hear peace. They heard strength. They heard confidence. They heard a species that was ready to fight if threatened. By the time the echoes of the message faded, the Dominion's fear had taken control of their decisions. Officers whispered quietly that Earth might be too dangerous, too unpredictable, and too powerful to confront. Never in their history had a single message created so much terror. The roar of humanity had reached them, and the mighty alien empire trembled. Their invasion plan was no longer a strategy. It was a risk they were too afraid to take. Humanity had unknowingly become a force the Dominion feared, and panic had already begun to change their next steps. Instead of advancing toward Earth, the Vorel fleet stopped abruptly at the edge of the solar system. Every ship in formation held position, engines humming softly, as if the fleet itself were holding its breath. The initial confidence that had carried them across countless conquered worlds had vanished, replaced by uncertainty and fear. Officers walked quickly through the corridors of the flagship, whispering to each other, comparing reports of the human reply that had hit them hours before. The signal had shaken their equipment, and more importantly, it had shaken their belief in their own invincibility. Some commanders argued for retreat, insisting that continuing the approach could lead to disaster. The humans had shown a strength that no species at this level had ever shown before. Their communication systems alone had almost crippled parts of the Vorel network. And the implications were terrifying. If humans could send such powerful signals, they might also have sensors capable of detecting every ship, weapon systems that could strike without warning, and hidden fleets waiting in orbit. The idea of continuing the invasion without understanding Earth's true capabilities suddenly seemed reckless and dangerous. Other officers refused to consider retreat. Their pride, built over centuries of conquest, would not allow it. They had never turned back from a mission before, and to do so now felt like admitting weakness. Some insisted that the signal must have been accidental, that no species so primitive could have intended to scare an empire. But as more technical reports confirmed the intensity and precision of the human reply, even the skeptics felt unease in their chests. Something was not as simple as it seemed, and their calculations of risk were no longer reliable. The fleet's internal communication channels were filled with conflicting orders. Some ships attempted to test sensors and shields, sending cautious pings toward Earth to gauge the humans' response. Other ships powered down non-essential systems to prevent further overloads. Engineers worked frantically to stabilize circuits and protect vital systems from the energy that had nearly damaged their equipment. The fleet that had once operated with mechanical precision was now hesitant, divided, and disorganized, all because a species they had assumed was weak had dared to speak back, and speak with power. On the flagship, the High Command convened another emergency meeting. The council chambers, once filled with confident discussion of strategies and invasion plans, were now dominated by anxious voices. Every officer offered a different opinion, some urging caution, others warning that hesitation could be just as dangerous as confrontation. Some wondered if humans had somehow discovered the fleet's exact location and were watching every move. The idea that Earth might be monitoring them was almost unthinkable, but the human reply had made even the impossible seem plausible. As the hours passed, the Vorel fleet did not move, and a strange kind of tension filled the void of space. The fleet that had been an unstoppable force was paralyzed, not by attack, but by uncertainty. Officers who had trained for decades in warfare now found themselves questioning every assumption, every plan, and every piece of intelligence. They had never encountered a species whose first action caused such doubt and fear, and as each report of the human signal was replayed on their screens, their fear grew, compounded by their inability to act decisively. Some younger officers whispered about retreat, imagining a slow withdrawal to regroup and reassess. Others suggested sending scouts or unmanned probes, but the senior commanders quickly rejected those ideas, fearing that any further approach might provoke the humans. Who knew what other powers this species might have hidden? The debate raged in secret, every voice carrying the weight of the Empire's pride, and yet no agreement was reached. The fleet remained suspended, caught in a moment of hesitation that was unprecedented in Vorel history. Even outside the command chambers, among the crew and engineers, the atmosphere had changed. Normally disciplined teams were now tense, speaking in hushed tones, some refusing to leave their stations for fear of missing critical data. The human reply had created a psychological effect that no weapon, no fleet, and no threat had ever achieved before. The aliens were learning a new kind of fear, one not born of physical danger, but of uncertainty and unpredictability. The more the fleet hesitated, the more the humans appeared to gain strength in their eyes. Even though Earth had not moved a single ship, the humans seemed to dominate the situation simply by responding. The alien commanders began to doubt whether their invasion plans were sound at all. What had once seemed like an easy conquest now looked like a trap. The humans had turned a simple first contact into a show of power that had frozen an entire empire in its tracks. By the time the first cycle of long-range scans was completed, the Vorel fleet had made no progress toward Earth. Instead, they remained on the edge of the solar system, engines idling, sensors scanning nervously, and minds racing with questions. What exactly were humans capable of? How far did their technology reach? And most importantly, could they afford to continue? The hesitation had bought humanity valuable time that would soon prove critical, and for the first time in generations, the Vorel realized that they might not control this encounter after all. Earth's scientists had no idea the full effect their messages had on the Vorel fleet. From their perspective, the reply was careful, polite, and precise, designed to show intelligence without provoking hostility. They crafted the second message after hours of calculations, this time making it clearer, more organized, and slightly longer. They included simple math, repeating patterns, and a short greeting intended to confirm they understood the first communication. But the humans had also unknowingly transmitted it with the same powerful deep space energy, sending it across millions of kilometers with the full strength of the communication array. The signal left Earth like a steady, confident pulse reaching into the darkness of space. When the Vorel received the second message, the effect was immediate and astonishing. Alien operators scrambled at their consoles, blinking lights and alarms filling the rooms. The signal felt sharper, more intentional, almost as if the humans were demonstrating control. Every tone, every pulse, and every mathematical sequence carried clarity that no previous species had ever matched. The alien analysts replayed the transmission again and again, unable to believe that a so-called primitive planet could send something so precise. Engineers rushed to check the integrity of their receivers, fearing overload or interference. But the signals were deliberate, not errors. And that realization brought a fresh wave of panic across the fleet. Some of the Vorel commanders interpreted the message as a threat. Although humans intended only to communicate, the aliens saw strength and confidence in every pulse. The beams seemed to pinpoint their ships with extraordinary accuracy. They thought the humans had detected the entire fleet and were sending a warning. "We see you. We know your location. Approach with caution." This perception made every officer nervous. Even the bravest soldiers felt their confidence shaken. The humans had not moved a single vessel, yet it seemed as if they were everywhere at once, tracking, observing, and ready to act. Inside the fleet, discussions became more urgent, and divisions deepened. Some commanders argued that they should retreat immediately, convinced Earth had far greater capabilities than previously imagined. Others suggested sending probes or drones, but no one wanted to risk provoking a species that might already be monitoring their movements. The young officer who had previously warned about human unpredictability now felt validated. His concerns echoed in every command room. The Dominion's previous assumptions about human weakness were crumbling, and their pride, carefully built over generations of conquest, was under attack. Engineers continued to analyze the signals, trying to find hidden weapon signatures or secret codes, but all they discovered were perfect mathematical patterns, harmonics, and precise timing. The humans had not sent anything physically damaging, but the clarity and strength of the signal made it feel like a demonstration of power, something entirely new to the Dominion, who had only encountered weak replies or complete silence from other worlds. Every officer realized that the humans' first two messages had changed the perception of what kind of species Earth was. What had been a simple greeting now looked like a show of strategy, confidence, and intelligence. The fleet remained motionless, holding position at the edge of the solar system, each ship waiting for orders, but every commander was unsure what the next step should be. The humans had achieved something remarkable without firing a single shot. They had created doubt, fear, and hesitation in an empire that had never hesitated before. Across the fleet, officers whispered about the possibility that humans were hiding more than just technology. Perhaps there were orbital defenses, hidden fleets, or advanced sensors. The uncertainty paralyzed the Dominion, and the aliens began to question every assumption they had ever made about primitive species. From Earth, the second message seemed like a routine reply, polite and measured. But the unintended power behind the transmission had done more than convey information. It had established a psychological advantage, giving humans the upper hand before any physical confrontation could even occur. Scientists monitored the ongoing response from the Vorel through faint reflected signals, unaware of how deeply they had shaken the alien fleet. Each pulse they sent was reinforcing the impression that humanity was prepared, confident, and capable. Whether they intended it or not, humans had projected strength across millions of kilometers of space. By the time the signal faded, the Dominion's confidence had been weakened even further. The officers feared that continuing toward Earth could be disastrous. The humans had not attacked, but they had made it clear that they were alert, aware, and ready to respond. The Vorel commanders realized that their invasion plans might no longer be feasible, that a planet they had assumed would be easy prey was now unpredictable and possibly far more advanced than intelligence had suggested. Humanity had taken control of the situation without leaving Earth, and the Dominion's fleet hesitated, frozen by fear and uncertainty. The psychological impact of the human's second message was complete. It had bought crucial time, confused the enemy, and turned what had been a planned conquest into a pause filled with doubt. The Dominion now had to reconsider their strategy entirely. Every officer in the fleet understood that the humans were not just another species to conquer. They were a force that had shown ingenuity, strength, and precision from the very beginning. And the pause, the hesitation, and the fear caused by one confident reply from Earth would change the outcome of the encounter more than any battle could. The Vorel Dominion fleet, paralyzed by the humans' powerful messages, faced a decision that no commander had ever expected to make: retreat or advance. Both options seemed dangerous, but fear had taken control. The commanders gathered in urgent meetings, reviewing every scan, every calculation, and every report from their operators. Every piece of data suggested that Earth was not what it seemed. The humans had projected strength, confidence, and technological capability beyond what the Dominion had ever anticipated. The very thought of continuing the invasion filled officers with dread, and the Empire that had once moved across galaxies with certainty now hesitated, unsure of what to do next. After long hours of debate, the senior council finally decided on full withdrawal. The fleet would retreat from the solar system and abandon the planned invasion. The humans' first two messages had convinced them that Earth might possess hidden defenses, advanced weapons, or sensors capable of tracking every movement of the fleet. They could not risk testing their assumptions. The psychological impact of Earth's replies had been so strong that even the most aggressive commanders feared provoking a response. A species they had considered weak had turned the tables without firing a single shot. And that realization alone was enough to force retreat. As the ship slowly powered down engines and turned away from Earth, a mixture of relief and anxiety spread through the Vorel ranks. Engineers repaired circuits that had been damaged by the intense human signals, while officers tried to calm crews who had never experienced such fear. Discussions continued over communication channels, with younger officers whispering about the humans' potential and older commanders struggling to reconcile their pride with reality. The fleet that had once believed itself unstoppable was now humbled by the confidence and strength of a single planet, and the Empire would have to rethink every assumption it had made about primitive species. Back on Earth, humans celebrated the first alien contact, unaware of the chaos they had caused. Scientists monitored faint reflections of the fleet retreating, interpreting them as signs of surprise, curiosity, and a mysterious alien caution. Military and political leaders breathed a quiet sigh of relief, believing that diplomacy and calm communication had prevented potential disaster. The public, still largely unaware of the full extent of the contact, speculated about extraterrestrial life and the possibilities of peaceful exchange. But even though humans celebrated, they had no idea that their simple, polite replies had forced a powerful galactic empire to retreat. The retreat of the Vorel fleet marked an extraordinary victory for humanity, not through warfare, but through ingenuity, communication, and confidence. A species that had never been challenged before had been forced to reassess its assumptions, and the humans' ability to project strength without aggression had created a psychological advantage. Across the Dominion, officers wrote reports describing Earth as an unpredictable and potentially dangerous species, a planet to watch, not conquer lightly. Their centuries of experience with conquest had not prepared them for an opponent who could command attention and fear with nothing more than words, signals, and intelligence. As the fleet disappeared into the depths of space, humans began to understand that first contact was far more complex than science fiction had imagined. The victory had been achieved not through military might, but through careful observation, courage, and the unintentional projection of strength. Earth had survived because of clarity, precision, and the ability to act confidently under uncertainty. For the first time in history, humans had faced a species far more advanced and survived, and the experience would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The psychological impact on the Vorel would last long after the retreat. Commanders questioned every assumption, analysts debated every possible action humans could take, and the Empire would no longer view Earth as a simple target. Every officer knew that one miscalculation could result in disaster. The humans had demonstrated intelligence, power, and unpredictability in ways that no species had ever done before. And the Dominion would approach any future encounters with caution, restraint, and fear. The retreat was more than a tactical decision. It was a lesson that would echo across the galaxy, teaching an empire to respect a species it had underestimated. On Earth, the victory inspired scientists, leaders, and citizens alike. The knowledge that humanity had survived first contact and even caused an advanced alien empire to retreat filled the world with hope, pride, and curiosity. Plans were made for continued observation, preparation, and cautious communication. Humans realized that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and filled with potential threats. But they had also discovered that careful action, intelligence, and courage could protect their home. Even without weapons, humans had won, and the story of that encounter would be remembered for generations as the moment when Earth spoke and the universe listened. The humans had unknowingly established a new balance of power, one that relied not on aggression or technology alone, but on confidence, understanding, and the ability to act decisively. The Varel Dominion would never forget the planet that had forced them to pause and retreat, and humanity had gained not just survival, but a reputation. The quiet courage and clever communication of humans had turned the first contact into an enduring victory, proving that intelligence and strategy could triumph over sheer strength. And as the signals faded into space, Earth continued to shine, watched by an empire now full of respect, caution, and awe.